You know, in addition to, just like how we want to get your voice in the conversation via Twitter, we want the community's voice represented here in the studio as well. So that's why we have some folks here at our community table. Nick Semenkovich, MD, PhD candidate. You've reminded me on the previous show. You're very humble about it.
Neither degree.
Michelle Fontaine from the Youth Learning Center.
That's correct.
And John Pa, an entrepreneur of your own, working in different creative mediums. Let me embarrass you all by saying, when we talk about retaining talent, we're talking about people like you. How do we get people like you to stay here in St. Louis and flourish in this environment we're talking about tonight?
Gosh, you know, building that entrepreneurship culture, which is what we've been talking about this whole evening, I think is really important. You know, we had Joe Schlafly on earlier, and I think he did a great job of emphasizing that capital is important. But that doesn't mean just money. You know, you don't need to just throw money and invest in companies. Having key resources around you to help your startup succeed are important. So I'm working with one of my med school friends, and we're trying to make a medical product, and along with that, we want to make just a simple case for the product. And one thing that would be really useful for us would be to have a 3D printer. And I don't really know where to go to get a 3D printer. I could buy one, but that would be really expensive. What would be cool is if there were some community resources and capital for people who are trying to be entrepreneurs and start companies to go in and use, say, a 3D printer at an incubator, at a community that had those resources available. I think that kind of capital is really important for the region to maintain.
I mean, I'll say we talked about this before, but I'm going to say that those resources are actually here in St. Louis. It just requires a little legwork to find them.
They're not in front.
They're not. Yeah,
which would be really nice.
But I'm going to say this is that I think for entrepreneurs, a huge element is desire and the willingness to push through the obstacles. And Joe Schlafly did say something about money and the need for capital. I feel like the lady Christy Maxfield also said something about there are plenty of risk takers out there taking risks, but the capital, people need to take those risks as well. I agree with both of them. At the same time, I feel like there's an entrepreneurial community that are taking those risks and need to find ways to move around those obstacles.
I wanted to push against that actually a little bit. So it was said that human capital follows capital, but not the other way around. And I disagree. I think one can follow the other and then the other can follow the other.
Yeah,
you definitely have to have the human capital there and get them exposed and interested and plug them in, right? In order for the capital to develop.
They're both sort of critically important. You need the infrastructure and resources, you need the people as well, and to bring more people into the region as well as have those assets available to them.
Well, let me ask you this is that, since we are the community table, my sense is there's a juxtaposition between the community at large, like St. Louis at large, which is a very conservative culture, and then you have this rogue nation or whatever it's going to be, 20% of people who are taking risks as entrepreneurs. You know, how do we mesh those two together? Is it even worthwhile, or?
I think it's possible. I think part of it is the awareness piece. So there's that 80% of the population that's completely unaware that this 20% is even existing and doing these great things. And so how do we share more information, let other people know that these incubators exist and that really cool things are coming out of them? But if that awareness is not just truly publicized, then it becomes less cool to remain in the city, and we've heard that a little bit. St. Louis has to remain an important and vital place in order to attract talent and to keep the talent that currently exists.
Talk about what you're doing at the Youth Learning Center. Is this something you talk to young people about?
Absolutely. And so we are trying to get kids excited and knowledgeable about entrepreneurship and specifically social enterprise. So Christy Maxfield actually has worked with us. Jim Bersunas has worked with us as well to let the kids know that they can not only create businesses and create business plans, but actually address some sort of a social mission. So solve a problem in the community and earn money and keep sustaining that problem, or sustaining solutions for that problem, rather.
I've never written a business plan ever.
And you've started some businesses.
I've started 3, and 2 of them actually have succeeded. There's one that is bleeding and hemorrhaging. That's my bleeding lamb to St. Louis. It's called the St. Louis Curator. But, you know, Intel had a 1-page, had typos, like 3 typos on its business plan to find funding. I'm sure that, you know, I don't know how many there are, but I feel like, at least in my own experience, I'll speak from my own experience, that I've never written a business plan and it's happened to work. I don't know, have you ever?
I have written a business plan. I kind of agree with you. I think a business plan and having that is important. I think one thing, to bring it back to the incubators that you brought up, I think it's really important to have a group of advisors and people that can help you making those decisions. Right. You know, one of the simplest decisions you can make is, how do we incorporate? Do I want to be an LLC? Do I want to be a C Corp? Do I want to be an S Corp? Do I want to be a nonprofit and go in the social entrepreneurship route? Do I want to do something esoteric like a B Corp, which now exists as kind of a blend between a nonprofit and a for-profit.
Have you not found that? Have you not found people
those are out there. I think that it takes a lot of time to figure that out on your own, and there's a lot of chances for you to make a mistake when you establish it.
Advice. So have you been able to find advisors? Like Clifford saying, I think it was Clifford saying that there's a lot of people, or there's resources for you.
Mentors are there.
Yeah.
Right.
To some degree, I think it's been a little harder here. I feel like the community isn't exactly what it could be. And I don't really know how to define
you
that as a
introvert?
problem.
He did go away. You went away.
I went to
and now
MIT,
you're back. Yeah.
and so I went to MIT in Cambridge, where that was just much more a part of the culture. It was you turn left and you turn right, and everyone you knew had started a company, and everyone you knew had advice and their own experiences and how this went. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist here.
I agree.
It's just for
I
me
agree.
personally,
A little bit
it's been
difficult to
harder to
navigate.
find that. And that's what I want to exist
But-
here.
I can't remember who said this, but it is true that you're basically one layer away from almost anybody you need to talk to, right? I feel like if you just shot an email and said, hey, I'm so-and-so, I need to talk to you,
completely
agree.
Judy.
In St. Louis.
In
Yeah,
St. Louis.
in St. Louis.
I can commiserate. So I'm not originally from the city, but it is very difficult if you are from here and have moved away and then come back, or if you're not from here, to break into those circles. And
Okay, tell me about your attempts. Have you really tried emailing someone or even stepping into
It's
this?
not that you
once-
can't find the advice. I think it's a different feel, right? If
It
you're in a
is.
community where everyone you know has started up a company, where every one of your friends has sent products to be manufactured, where they've gone through approval processes through the FCC for electronics or through the FDA for pharmaceuticals, it's a different feel. It's a little different saying, hey, I don't really know you. Let's sit down. What kind of advice can you offer? It's different when your best friend and the guy you've gone to classes with has done this, they've been through it, and you can really trust them and be honest about their experiences.